So I don't know if you guys have been seeing this making the rounds currently, but lately I've been seeing a lot of this style of makeup known for its droopy eyes, worried eyebrows, and accentuated Cupid's bow. And it's getting me thinking. So, I mean, we've already seen the skinny eyebrows that have been in style for a few years now. And I feel like adding the extra layer of making them 1920ified just adds like a whole nother layer of self-expression and uniqueness to picture, you know? But why are we seeing this trend come back in the first place? So we all remember the 1920s, right? The whole party era. Like, I know we don't because we didn't live through it, but through the history books, we've learned about it. So it was 1918, 1920 that the Spanish flu occurred, a whole pandemic, killed a lot of people, millions. And after this whole period occurred, the decade to come would be known as a period of change. The old values of self-denial and frugality that can be attributed to the Protestant work ethic began to give way to a new fascination with consumption, leisure, and self-realization.
Where are we going? Who cares? Now come on, we're gonna party like it's the roaring 20s.
No TV, movies suck. I'm here with my gal. Shake your hands, kick around, wear a suit to breakfast.
And I really think that the 1920s was the period of time where America was really coming into its own. It was, after all, the early 1920s that Hollywood would become the world's first film capital. It produced pretty much all of the films shown in the United States and received about 80% of all the revenue from films shown abroad. With the ratification of the 19th Amendment, white women now had the right to vote, and divorce rates reached a 1 in 7 by the mid-decade. Respectable women now wore makeup, and flappers clad in shockingly short skirts wore sheer pantyhose and smoked. So we're seeing all these changes going on in the 1920s, right? And I can't help myself but see quite a few similarities between now and 100 years ago. Of course, we just went through a pandemic, a time of isolation and reflection, and we come out of that and what do we see? TikTok has blown up. Information is at its peak in terms of how easily word can now spread. And in the 1920s Prohibition era, we saw the ban on alcohol. And despite that, we still view that era as a time of consumption, glamour, and partying. And I would have to say we're kind of seeing the same thing now, but I would say it's just being played out in different ways. And I don't know if it's just me, but I'm seeing now a very large increase in the complete disdain for capitalism, period. Like, I'm not even seeing it just on TikTok at this point. Like, I'm seeing it in my everyday conversations. There's strikes going on everywhere, dude. Like, it's crazy. And I'm seeing more than anything, I would say, a complete refusal of Puritan ideals, if I were to put it in a nutshell. So our country was founded by Puritans, right? And it really seems to me for the past few centuries, we've been fighting back at what they've been trying to instill in us. So how did we get here? At the heart of Puritan doctrine was the idea of predestination, the belief that God had already predetermined who would be saved and who would be damned. And this concept had pretty big implications for their work ethic. Puritans believed that one's calling in life was a reflection of God's will. So they embraced this strong work ethic as a means of demonstrating their election of salvation. And the idea was that through hard work and diligence, they could provide evidence of their piety and secure their place among the elect. This work ethic really translated into a strong commitment to labor and industry. Puritans saw their economic endeavors as a form of worship and a means to fulfill their covenant with God. However, they believed that the importance of accumulating wealth was not for personal luxury, but for the greater good of the community. And this emphasis on thrift and frugality contributed to the economic prosperity of the colony. And it seems that with the fading away of these Puritan religious beliefs, we're getting this weird amalgamation of this duty to work as hard as you can, total loyalty to your boss, to your company, while not retaining the same values of doing this for the betterment of the community, but instead for ourselves. So it really has aided in this individualism on a whole nother level. And now we're seeing a whole lot of people pissed off because all of this is starting to catch up with us. The pandemic gave us time to reflect, and we're now realizing the effects of this toxic thinking. So to bring it back now, the 1920s were a time of pushing back through bold fashion choices and hedonism. And I would have to say that 2020 might be characterized as a time of pushing back through information sharing and leisure in the form of refusal to conform to the norms of the Protestant work ethic. I mean, new ideas are being birthed at a rate that someone in 1920 couldn't even imagine, or even prior to that. And since Americans are so disheartened currently with the slave wagery going on that's so prevalent in this country, there's this rise in this idea that since college is so expensive, working for the man is a turnoff, that social media as a career is becoming a much more attractive idea. Anyone can be a star in 2023, make a shit ton of money off it, work for themselves, determine their own schedule, not have to wake up early and come in on their days off. It's a much better, smarter decision at this point. So just like in the 1920s, where you see the rise of Hollywood and celebrity, you're now seeing more and more people choosing social media as a career instead of the traditional career with a CEO overlord. And it's almost like glamorization and consumption and entertainment that seems like to be almost the epitome of these first few years, I would say, of 2020. Just kind of like how 1920s was similar in that regard. So we have all these changes going on, which I think will be in history books as a very influential period. And so it's interesting to see this harkening back to the 1920s period makeup. And I really think it's starting to come full circle. Both periods of change, pandemics, boldness, unconformity. I mean, both times are really amazing for women in terms of self-expression. I think the heaviness of the style is so beautiful because it totally disregards some of the sentiments that some men seem to have currently regarding women and makeup, and some claims that some men have where they say they hate makeup on women. Really, they just mean obvious makeup. I mean, look at those brows. They scream emotion. But you scroll through some of these comments on these videos, and you see so many men making gross comments about how ugly it is or whatever. There's no understanding of the art of it or the self-expression of makeup. And it seems that these men view these women only as it pertains to the sexual market. She knows it's not conventionally attractive. Most of these women would not be wearing this makeup in everyday life. It's an art. It's a way to express oneself through totally transforming one's face through paint. Yet despite this, she still decides to create these looks because she values her right to express herself more than she values any man's opinion. And I mean, the 1920s was a time when women started wearing makeup, period. Like, where once it was frowned upon as something only sex workers or lower class women wore, now it was becoming more popularized and mainstream. So it seems that there's a common theme where some men's views on makeup only pertain to the sexual market. Before, it was considered improper to wear it for fear of being seen as a prostitute. Now it's considered improper to wear too much because there's a fear of being seen as less attractive or too made up. But I'm glad that these women are completely disregarding this and doing what feels good for themselves. But anyway, thanks for watching. I had a lot of fun making this video, and these are just some of my views. Feel free to disagree. Check out my new song, which will be linked below. I'm working on an album, blah, blah, blah. I'll let you know when that comes out. It is about capitalism, my new album is, and it's gonna be more like rock and electronic. So I've been working on it, working extra hard, I've been producing extra hard, and yeah, I'll update you guys on that, and peace out.